Today's March 20th, 2019, and this is episode 78 of PlaneSavers. Good morning, everybody. It is -3 here in Red Deer, Alberta, which is, I think, about 28 degrees, maybe 29 degrees Fahrenheit. It is a beautiful day, but I've been getting news reports from the Northwest Territories that this is record-breaking warm temperatures, and the Territories right now, they're going to get plus 20. Now, this is the first time in recorded history they're saying that in March, the Territories is going to hit plus 20. And this sounds like a good thing, but there's actually two things that is really hampering. The Snow Castle in Yellowknife is now closing during the day because of the snow conditions. They want to preserve that. And if you don't know what the Snow Castle is, it was on one of the early episodes of Ice Pilots. That's where AJ got married. But so if you're in around Yellowknife, definitely check out the Snow Castle. And in my hometown of Hay River, they had to cancel the pond hockey tournament because all the rinks melted. And so it's, yeah, even with some good weather, there's maybe a little bit of a downside. But saying that, it is nice here. And speaking of good weather, the Electras, we got BAQ here in IJX, are getting ready for firefighting. The crews are in town doing ground school. And one thing I want to show you guys, the Eagle Eye guys were saying, is that BAQ is actually dedicated to the memory of Arnie Schrader. And so that's super important for us. And you guys picked that out. So you guys seen that in the background. But I'm going to show you something else along the way. Ronnie's been busy loading up the Seacan. And yeah, so we're going to have some logistics issues. My brother has sent me down a work package. So Stella's going to be busy today recording all the serial numbers of all the components that are on the engines, because you know, everything has to be traced. And it's quite amazing, actually, how many different DC-3 parts are going on this airplane. Pretty much every DC-3 we have except LFR. But I'll go through that a little bit later. Maybe I'll do that when I'm back in Yellowknife to show you where all the parts are actually coming from for this airplane. So now we're over at IJX, the DC-3, the Electra. And this is dedicated to the memory of Mr. Forbes. And if you have any business dealings with Buffalo, you know that Mr. Forbes was our chartered accountant that worked tirelessly at Buffalo. He is one of my most favorite people in the world, and unfortunately he passed away. Yeah, so we got one dedicated to Arnie and one dedicated to Mr. Forbes, who worked tirelessly to make sure that these airplanes had enough money to work. And Arnie, of course, who flew them. This Seacan is a 40-foot Seacan. It's going to have 2 engines, 2 props, 2 ailerons, 1 rudder, 2 elevators, all the doors, all the fun stuff. Basically, the whole airplane in that Seacan. It's going to weigh around 15,000 pounds. Now, we got to move this Seacan to Montreal. A trucking company is going to cost around $5,900 to get this truck to Montreal. I can probably do it cheaper, but yeah, I want to kind of make sure it gets there on time. We are projecting this Seacan to arrive April 1st, and that gives us this weekend. So hopefully we can get the second engine built up. It's going to save us even more time in Montreal. Ronnie is going to bring down his holiday trailer, and I want to give a big shout out to Benoit and Nicholas, who are working today to figure out all our logistics stuff. We're going to need a crane to meet us to unload the Seacan. We need an apartment to stay at. I need to find a vehicle to either buy, rent, steal, or borrow for a couple months. Yeah. So it looks like April 1st is kind of the day where everything's going to start showing up in Montreal. Ronnie's going to show up with his holiday trailer, and he's going to be able to camp out near the airplane. I'm going to probably get an apartment in town. Hopefully Stella can join me. We have to find a place for Stuka the dog. Yeah, so that's kind of it right now. I actually just noticed while I was walking around that my father snuck back to Yellowknife already, which is kind of funny. He was here an extra couple days, but he's snuck back. yeah, so I think that's kind of it for today. Showing you that. We'll go talk to Ronnie for a bit. So this is DTB's engine.
Left side.
Left side.
We're just changing it. We're just putting a new carb on it, and we're going to change all the hoses. All the hoses are time expired, and we're putting a fresh carb on it, and then we're going to load it in the Seacan. We might take a third engine just for a spare. If we take 3 engines, we won't need it, you know, but just to have it as spare.
So with all the experience that you have, like that's, you know, to take stuff that you might not need because you might need it, eh?
You might need it and you might not need it, but we got lots of room, so we'll take spares. We'll take more than enough just so we have some spares. Like spare components, spare engine, spare wheels, brakes, a little bit of everything. More than just what is missing off the airplane.
Because it's kind of like a one-way trip. Even if we're missing a simple part, it's going to have to come from Red Deer, or Yellowknife, or one of our storage facilities. So that can be, you know, up to a week sometimes, depending on if it's a Friday afternoon. So yeah, Ronnie's over-preparing, which is always a good idea. And yeah, I'm getting a little excited. How much time's left on this engine?
It's got about 300 hours to go. A low time one on the right side, higher time one on the left.
So folks, kind of what that means, like 300 hours doesn't seem like a much, but with DTD would maybe run 30 hours this year. So 300 hours could be, you know, 10 years, 10 years worth of time, to put that in perspective, because, you know, 300 hours in Yellowknife is nothing. You go through it in a few months. But here, it could be almost a lifetime worth of time. So that's a benefit of this engine. Is almost useless when it comes to commercial because of how low time it has, but it is valuable to something like DTD or Warbird because of, you know, how little they're utilized, basically relative to each other. Hopefully that makes sense. We got a work package from Yellowknife. Rod, my brother, has sent us down a package to make sure that everything is done through blah, 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 all that fun stuff, all that technical stuff that when I get back to Yellowknife, I'll get Rod to explain. Yeah, sounds good. What do you think, Ronnie? Any closing remarks?
No, we'll just do what we can and get down there as soon as we can. Start working on that airplane down there.
Cool.
It's just straight labor. We have all the parts, it's just straight labor. Yeah, that's the first one. We're gonna load the other one today or tomorrow and load a few more things, and then she's pretty much loaded, ready for shipment. That's 1 engine, 2 props. We gotta go get a frost fighter, Herb and Nelson, in case we need it. And put the flight controls in here. They're easy. We're gonna put the flight controls on top of everything.
Okay, folks, as promised, thank you for sticking around the video this long. Now, one of the most requested things I've seen in the comments in a long time is to show this particular DC-3. So we got 2 other DC-3s here. That's FAY, and on the other side, that's an old Gateway machine. Actually, the first DC-3 my father was ever in. It was there's an old Ice Pilots episode where we show footage back in the 50s or 60s. I guess when my dad was 16 years old, they put it on a barge and rescued it, and he ended up with it. Long story. But the reason why we're here is this particular DC-3, and it is strange. I shouldn't say strange. It's normal for the planes of the era. But the first thing you'll notice is there's no door where there normally is a door. And folks, the reason for that is this is actually a DC-3. So Buffalo Airways has had close to 20 DC-3s in its life, and this is the only one that was actually built a DC-3. This is VQV. She was built in 1940 as a DC-3A, and more particular a DST, which is a Douglas Sleeper Transport. So you see, it is super nice out, but there is a lot of snow, so I'm going to be trekking through some snow. So this airplane, while we're here, a very curious thing that I remember from when I was a kid is whenever they took the engines off, and of course this wasn't Buffalo Airways, they took the components off the engines and left the lines. So you can see the components. So instead of unhooking this line and leaving the component on the engine, they took the components off. Very, very strange. But it's been like this. Buffalo's never flown this airplane. My father bought it, geez, your guess is as good as mine, a long time ago. And he's kept it. He wanted it because it's an actual DC-3. Now, if you remember, I made that cardboard cutout of explaining life cycles of DC-3s. And more commonly, like FAY here, see FAY's got the door on this side. FAY was built a C-47 and then converted into a DC-3C. It's very backwards for this airplane. VQV was built a DC-3A, then converted to a C-47, except they didn't really call the C-47, they called it a C-48. So it is a little bit complicated, but it's basically, it was a DC-3, the war broke out, the military took it and converted it into a military, kind of like the draft. These things were born into the military and then were civilian after. This was civilian, military, and then back to civilian. As you can see, it's got the air stair doors on this side. Oh, and she's locked. I don't have a key, but the interior is completely stripped. Anyway, so Basler, as my father said earlier, has bought these airplanes, but my father kept this one. So this one is for sale. He claims it's for sale. People ask and they want to buy it, and then he just never ever sells it, as is an ongoing theme with Buffalo Airways. But yeah, so I wanted this as a thank you, because this episode was a little wordy, but I wanted to get you guys up and close to the only DC-3 Buffalo Airways has ever owned. Hopefully that makes sense. So one day, hopefully she finds a really good home. And yeah, who knows, maybe PlaneSavers some future season, maybe we can get her flying, who knows. But more than likely, you'll probably find a new home. Someone will restore it, and yeah, very cool. So let me know. I'm more impartial to I like the military birds, but some people like the original DC-3s, and let me know in the comments what section you are in. Another thing is there's a lot of Zantop fans in the comments. Zantop was a big airline in the States that hauled car parts around. I think they had C-46s quite a bit, and they have Electras. So there we go. A Zantop Electra. For the people that know Zantop, what's the registration on there? Charlie Golf Oscar India Zulu. You can do a reverse lookup and see what the end number is on that one. And there we go. So that's a cool shot of all the Electras in the row. These are all Airsprays Electras, except the one on their end, that's ours, and that's a Revolution one. Whew. So that's it for today's episode. Hopefully you enjoyed everything. Tomorrow we're going to finish up the Seacan, and I'm going to probably be heading back to Yellowknife pretty soon. Yeah, so thank you for sticking around, and hope you enjoy the show, and hope you see tomorrow. So cheers, and have a great night, folks, and we'll see you very, very soon. Bye.